welcome back to another episode of the 3 Count. I'm War Machine MJ, the 3 Count Mafia champion until WrestleMania Backlash, the Elite Count champion, and of course, the WW3 champion. Now I'm here today to talk about NXT 2.0, sorry, and NXT UK. So let's go ahead and kick things off with NXT 2.0, aka Championship Tuesday, where 3 championships were on the line. Of course, we had the North American Championship, Cameron Grimes defending against Solo Sikoa. Had Mandy Rose of Toxic Attraction defending against Dakota Kai. And of course, we had, because of last week's unfortunate dalliances, we had a 5-team gauntlet match for the vacant NXT championships, as the Creed brothers, Grayson Waller and Sanga, Legado del Fantasma, Pretty Deadly, and Briggs and Jensen all vied for the vacant tag straps. So let's go ahead and kick things off with the North American Championship, as once again Cameron Grimes took on Solo Sikoa. And this was a hell of a match. These guys, giving it their all. Of course, a match that was started on sportsmanship quickly turned sour in the middle of the match, as Cameron Grimes told Solo Sikoa that the bloodline can kiss his grits. Of course, Solo Sikoa is the brother of the Usos, so there's some blood running along these lines. Anyway, down the stretch, Solo Sikoa and Cameron Grimes are up on the top rope. Sikoa knocks Cameron Grimes off, and before he could, jump off, do a splash, Trick Williams grabbed the ankle of Solo Sikoa. Sikoa kicks him off, and then, he dispatches him. After he gets done dispatching him, he slides in the ring and right into a cave-in from Cameron Grimes. 1, 2, 3, Cameron Grimes retains. After the match, Cameron Grimes and Solo Sikoa were laid out by Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. Of course, Carmelo is the ex-North American Championship. North American Champion. Next, Grayson Waller and Saga cut a promo. Well, Grayson Waller cuts a promo about, the tag gauntlet. Yeah, basically he just hypes up what Sanga's going to do and says, we're going to be the tag team champions, blah, blah, blah. Come back from commercial, and Malcolm Bivens and the Creed brothers cut a promo about the tag team gauntlet. Of course, their main focus was on Pretty Deadly, who not only trashed their dojo, but ambushed the Creed brothers last week. So next, we had a promo from Braun Breaker. Of course, he addresses the fact that Joe Gacy got under his skin by kidnapping daddy-faced gremlin Rick Steiner. And, he says, oh, Dad's safe and sound, but Joe Gacy's not going to be safe and sound. Challenges him to a match. Then they throw to a promo from Joe Gacy, who, he talked about, about how he got under Braun Breaker's skin, by kidnapping his dad. And, he says, well, if there's one thing I know about you, it's that, your old man is tough because he took a beating, and he took it well. And, if my recap of this promo sounds disjointed, Joe Gacy he's got that Bray Wyatt effect about him, where he just talks himself, around. But basically, the moral of this promo is Joe Gacy got his hands on Rick Steiner's Hall of Fame ring, and he tosses it into a conveniently lit fire. Next, we had an interview from Toxic Attraction from their locker room where Mandy Rose just, talked about how she's going to put the boots to Dakota Kai and retain her title. Uh, Next, there was a backstage segment where Jacket Time were on their way to the ring when they were ambushed by Von Wagner, who, leveled them both. Come back from commercial, and a very angry Braun Breaker leaves the ring. Yeah. And then come back to the ring, and Robert Stone and Jacket Time are... Oh, I'm sorry. Robert Stone and Von Wagner were in the ring. And Robert Stone says, oh, there's not going to be a match because Jacket Time, are a bit indisposed. And then he says, this is Von Wagner's world, and we're just living in it. And Ikemen Jiro, of course, of Jacket Time, limps his way to the ring, and he starts throwing hands with Von Wagner, talks his way into a match, and for as banged up as he was, Jiro was bringing the fight to old Von Wagner until Von Wagner puts Jiro away with an ugly looking attitude adjustment. Like I say, it's ugly because, how when Cena hits the attitude adjustment, he's still standing when he, dumps the opponent. Von Wagner just kind of dumps and falls with him, which is ugly. After the match, Von Wagner was paying attention to some girl in the crowd. I don't know her name, but she has some affiliation with Von Wagner and Robert Stone. And, because of her, Von Wagner just picks up Ikemen Jiro and just press slams him into a bunch of plants in the front row. Next, we had a sit-down interview with Nikita Lyons, and Nikita was asked about, if she's proved herself to Lash Legend, and she just, immediately dismissed Lash Legend and said, I got to prove myself to the fans, I got to prove myself to the locker room. Before she could finish her train of thought, here comes Lash Legends with a just on-point boot right to Nikita Lyons' face, and, she talks some static, and she gets shoved off by backstage officials. Next, we had a promo from Pretty Deadly talking about the Gauntlet match, and they're looking to become the first team to win the NXT Tag Team Championships on their debut. Anyway, next we had Dakota Kai taking on Mandy Rose for the NXT Women's Championship. Yeah. This was a pretty alright match. Dakota Kai had victory well in hand until Gigi Dolan and JC Jane got involved. And Mandy Rose gets the victory with her knee trigger. And after the match, while Toxic Attraction is celebrating, Wendy Chu comes out of nowhere and douses Toxic Attraction with a couple of Super Soakers. Hooray. Speaking of hooray, we get a Joe Gacy promo, another one. And he talks more and more and more. And then he reaches into the fire and picks up the Hall of Fame ring and puts it on. Like a dummy. Come back from commercial, and Legado del Fantasma is in the locker room. Santos is hyping them up, and Tony D rolls up. And, he talks, he's like, okay, there seemed to be a little misunderstanding. But if things don't go their if things don't go LDF's way this week, he's got a little peace offer. And, he hands Santos an envelope, which you assume has to be, full of money. Uh, Santos politely hands it back, and he says, um, the respect of his family is way more than a bunch more dollars. Sorry, I had a bubble. Next, we had a promo from Cora Jade where, she basically cuts the fangirl promo, which is, oh, I've been a fan of this all my life. I wanted to do this. I sat front row. I idolized all these folks. And how she needs to be champion. She dreamed about it ever, since 5 years old. Blah blah blah. And she lists off all the women that inspired her. Of course, it's more recent names. Like AJ Lee, Bailey, Sasha Banks, Natalia, and as soon as she says Natalia's name, Natalia's music hits. She comes out there, and Natalia starts getting a bit emotional, and Cora Jade starts freaking out. She gets on the mic and she's cutting one of those fan meets their hero promos where she's just, all over the place. And Natalia, she gets a little emotional, and she, when she delivers this promo about how, Cora Jade has the potential to be the star, and how, she bigs her up, basically says, you got all the, that your future, you could be the future of NXT and WWE, and then, sharp left turn, but the future is bleak. And she just paintbrushes Cora Jade in the face and slaps on a sharpshooter. And then Natalia finally lets go, and Cora Jade just kind of, while she's selling the injury, she's got that bottom lip puckered out like she's about ready to cry. Next, we had Josh Briggs, Brooks Jensen, and Fallon Henley getting fired up for the gauntlet match. Next, we had a highlight reel for NXT UK's Nathan Frazier coming to NXT very soon. Which Nathan Frazier, he's a hell of a competitor. Like go look up some of his earlier work. It's fantastic. Of course, Nathan Frazier, or his earlier moniker, Ben Carter, was caught up in the bidding war between WWE and AEW after appearing on AEW Dark. So, yep. Next, we had Draco Anthony versus Zion Quinn, which, this was a pretty run-of-the-mill match. Zion Quinn was kind of nice and composed until Draco Anthony mocked the Samoan War dance, and then Zion Quinn just proceeded to let Draco Anthony have it. And of course, Zion Quinn gets the victory with an elbow strike. Next, Natalia's walking through the backstage of NXT 2.0, more specifically where all the women were at, and she gets challenged to a match by Tatum Paxley. Of course, Tatum Paxley is trying to prove her way into the Diamond Mine. And Natalia goes, yeah, okay, you're on. And to the rest of you, I'm here in 2.0, and you are put on notice. The Creed brothers come out before commercial, and when we come back from commercial, there was a backstage promo where Persia and Indy basically try and try and sell Dexter Lumis and Duke Hudson on a tag team idea where Hudson and Lumis team up to go after the tag team titles. Um, Loomis and Hudson don't want anything to do with it until they're eventually convinced by Indian Persian to do it. So at least they're not doing any dumb shit like last week. Anyway, Creed Brothers drew number one. Of course, they're going to start. And number two was Legado del Fantasma. Of course, it was Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza. This was a very, very good match. In fact, the whole gauntlet was fantastic. But the Creed brothers put away LDF. And yeah, next up is Briggs and Jensen. Of course, they were accompanied to the ring by Fallon Henley. And before Fallon could do anything, her and Elektra Lopez, you know, start brawling. And of course, that gets broken up. Briggs and Jensen take it to the Creeds, and yeah, once again, another really good match. Creed brothers blow past Briggs and Jensen to advance to the third match against Grayson Waller and Songa. Yeah, Songa's doing a lot of the heavy lifting while Grayson Waller, you know, his arm's still in the sling. He's sitting there on ringside watching Songa do work. And, yeah, Songa winds up. Oh, that was towards the tail end of the match. Anyway, midway through the match, Songa gets the tag into Grayson Waller. Waller looks like he's about to dive on the legal Creed brother. But he then goes over to the Creed's corner and tags the illegal Creed with his injured hand, showing that he wasn't injured all along. Waller then beats down on Brutus Creed throughout the commercial break. Comeback, Brutus finally gets that desperate tag, and both Brutus and Julius individually suplex Songa. And, well, Brutus gets the suplex. Julius tags in for the cartwheel spine buster on Songa, followed by the sliding lariat. Creed brothers advance to the final round against Pretty Deadly. Of course, the Creed brothers were exhausted, wrestling 3 matches. Pretty Deadly, fresh as a daisy, and, Pretty Deadly still had a hard time putting down the Creed brothers. But they put down the Creed brothers with spilt milk. So Pretty Deadly set a new record, not only being the first team to win the NXT Tag Team Championships on their debut, but they're also the first team to win the NXT Tag Team Championships through a gauntlet match. Pretty impressive stuff. They're also the second team to hold the NXT and NXT UK championships behind Mustache Mountain. So, huzzah. So yeah, that is the recap of NXT. And these notes come courtesy of Cage Side Seats. So yeah, on to NXT UK. Alright, now we're going to talk about NXT UK, and if you've paid attention to my wardrobe change, let's just say that I've recorded the NXT and UK on different days, so I can try and I'm trying new stuff, right? I'm trying new techniques, new stuff to make my schedule a bit loftier. Anyway, we kicked off NXT UK with Dave Mastiff and Jack Stars taking on the Coffee Brothers. And this goes back to a little shouting match last week on UK where apparently Jack Stars and Dave Mastiff were being a little bit too loud lifting weights for for Joe Coffey's taste, you know. But yeah, this was a pretty alright match. Towards the finish, however, there was a miscommunication between the Gallus boys as Mark Coffey looked to put Jack Stars away. Joe blind tagged in, and you know he wanted the glory for himself. Went for his Black Coffee lariat, was reverse, and yeah, Mastiff and Stars got the victory. Um, Afterwards, Mark and Joe were at each other's throat, and Wolfgang came out to try and smooth tempers over, and Joe Coffey just walked away. Next, there was a vignette hyping up the match between Sam Gradwell and Kenny Williams. You know, game, and you know, their whole tit for tat, leading into a street fight between the two of them. Next, we had NXT UK Women's Champion Meiko Satomura calling out Isla Dawn, who absconded with the championship belt after their match. And Isla Dawn was leveraging the physical belt for a shot at, you know, the championship. With the and Meiko Satomura just replied with, "If you wanted a shot, all you had to do was ask." And of course, Isla Dawn said, "All right, but we're going to have this match under my rules," which very, very dubious. There we go, dubious rules there. Um, and before Meiko Satomura could accept, Isla Dawn hit her with a black mist, and well, she just laid the title down and walked away. Next, there was a backstage promo from Amel, who basically put out an ultimatum that she's going to get her hands on Xia Brookside and Eliza Alexander. Next, we had a promo from Mark Andrews and Wild Boar, basically firing more shots at Eddie Dennis and his Symbiosis gang, where Mark Andrews revealed that, you know, him and Wild Boar go back for, you know, 15 years, but it was because of Eddie Dennis that they fell out of touch. Now that you know, Eddie Dennis is a common enemy, they're on the same page, and well, Wild Boar is still out for payback, except for this time he's got Mark Andrews in his corner. Next, we had the debut match of Eliza Alexander. Of course, Eliza Alexander is the partner of Xia Brookside. I was referred to the wrong Xia. Anyway, Eliza Alexander defeated Angel Hayes. Nothing to write home about in this match. Next, there was a promo from Amelia McKenzie, who, you know, she'll always be Millie McKenzie, or Suplex Millie to me. But anyway, there was a promo, you know, she's basically cutting the whole, it's hard work, you know, training pays off, especially training under Meiko Satomura. When Stevie Turner interrupted her and to say, "Oh, it must be nice being Meiko's Satomura," no, Meiko's number 2, sorry. And that Meiko basically picked her up as a protege because she didn't think of her as a threat. So yeah, that's going to lead to a scrum between Sophie Turner and Stevie Turner. Sorry, I got the Turners mixed up. Sophie Turner is the actress, yes. But it's going to lead to a tussle between Stevie Turner and Amelia McKenzie. And finally, in the main event, Teoman taking on A-Kid. This was a hell of a match. Like, Teoman's pretty good, and I absolutely adore A-Kid. He is great. But yeah, Teoman defeated A-Kid thanks to some shenanigans from Rohit Raju of D Familia. So, yeah. Oh, and there was but before I end off these notes, there was a backstage segment after last week's main event between Ilya Dragunov and Roderick Strong, where Ilya was approached for comments on Roderick Strong before he could even, say a word. Roderick Strong appears and he gives Ilya his props and respect. When they were interrupted by Jordan Devlin, the Irish Ace, so he basically talked more shit at Ilya. So, yeah, they're going to circle back around to Ilya and Devlin. They might put the title on Jordan Devlin. Maybe we'll never know. So, yeah. And that's it for NXT UK. So, those notes came courtesy of eWrestlingNews.com. So, yeah. That being said, I'm War Machine MJ. You see my titles, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bang.